Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
Last Monday, there was a tragic mass shooting in Colorado. And in this incident that took place in Denver and Lakewood, your 47-year-old Lyndon James McLeod is alleged to have participated in the murder of 5 people and the wounding of 3 others, including a police officer. Now, the police say they don't know what the motive for these murders in this mass shooting were, but when I take a critical examination of this tragic series of shootings, it fits right in line with the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me after reading the story of Lyndon James McLeod, he definitely was someone who definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in The Man Crisis. Now, your Lyndon James McLeod had been a ticking time bomb for several years, and even the government and the FBI knew about Lyndon James McLeod's alleged erratic behavior, because your Lyndon James McLeod had made threats to several people before going out here and participating in this murder spree. Now, your Lyndon James McLeod had been an author under a pseudonymous name, and under that pseudonymous name, he wrote several books where he described some of the incidents that took place on that Monday where he participated in the mass shooting. Now, he wrote these books under the name Roman McClay, and in one of these books, he details the mass shooting that a protagonist, Lyndon McLeod, a fictional version of himself, participates in, where he kills 6 people, and then he was wearing tactical gear, just like the character. So that really shows me that your Lyndon McLeod was in some ways trying to become the character that he created, and that is something that beta males do, because many beta males feel very insecure and inadequate among themselves, and because they feel insecure and inadequate in themselves, they go out here and create fantasies to be able to be the person that they want to be, and that's what Lyndon James McLeod looks like he wanted to do with this character that he wrote in the book Sanction. Now, in addition to these feelings of inadequacy working its way through his fiction, which I think he was trying to use as a therapeutic way to deal with his issues, we had Lyndon James McLeod, who was also showing his feelings of inadequacy through his racism and his white supremacy, because your Lyndon James McLeod was also a confirmed white supremacist, and oftentimes he would talk about alpha males and becoming this alpha male. So this is something that he put in his literature, and it shows me that he was a beta male filled with a lot of feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. And in addition to him having these feelings of insecurity and inadequacy about his own masculinity, he also had serious issues with women. Now, a lot of beta males have serious issues with women, and when they can't get relationships to work with women, oftentimes they become misogynist, like these incels who are frustrated and angry that they cannot make life work. And that could be one of the reasons that motivated your Lyndon James McLeod to participate in this mass shooting, because your Lyndon James McLeod also talked about how he had not really achieved much success in life, and because he had not achieved much success in life, having multiple business failures, he probably had a lot of frustration, because at 47 years old, he was not in the place that he wanted to be, and because he was not in the place he wanted to be, that probably was one of the reasons why he was motivated to go out here and participate in this mass shooting, because if he could not gain the fame that he wanted to achieve in life through success in business or success in relationships, he would go out in a blaze of infamy by participating in a extremely heinous act that would get his name out there. Because whenever a beta male feels like he cannot accomplish something positive, what he wants to do these days is go out here and gain fame and notoriety through an infamous act like a mass shooting. So that is one of the reasons why a lot of beta males go out here and participate in mass shootings. It is because they want to go out here and get attention for themselves, because they feel that they cannot get that attention through actions of merit. And because they cannot go out here and get their attention through actions of merit, they go out here and participate in these acts of violence. Now, your Lyndon James McLeod, as he was acting out on these actions that are based on the books and his stories, he went out here and shot up 2 tattoo parlors, and then he went out here and got into a shootout with police. And that is where his rose-colored fantasy met with reality. And when his rose-colored fantasy met with reality, that's when Lyndon James McLeod realized that possibly there were consequences for his actions and wound up being taken out by the police. But when I take a further critical examination of this tragic incident, again, it shows me how much worse the man crisis is getting in this country, because we are seeing not only more of these violent incidents taking place, we are seeing an increase in frequency of these violent incidents. Now, this is the, I believe, second incident to take place in Colorado in just a year. I remember there was a mass shooting where an individual wound up shooting up a supermarket and 10 people wound up losing their lives. And sadly, in that case, that killer is now not going to trial because they say he's incompetent to stand trial. But I really think that he should have stood trial, because there definitely is nothing wrong with these guys outside of them not having any sort of male coping skills, male life skills, or male survival skills. And because these males are not taught how to deal with the harsh realities of life, what happens is these men become ticking time bombs, because they simmer and boil in anger, because they're just not taught how rough the world is, and because their mothers and even some of their fathers enabled them. They go out here thinking the world is going to be rose-colored and nice, and what happens is these men go out and find out how hard the world is, and then they don't know how to deal with the world the way a man does, by hanging in there and standing up for himself. So what they do is they simmer and boil in anger, and then when life gets too hard, these men explode in a rage, because they feel like they have nothing to lose. And when they feel like they have nothing to lose, they would rather again go out in a blaze of glory with an infamous incident, rather than buckle down and persevere and try to deal with the struggles of life. And that's what happened, I believe, here, where we saw this guy who probably, after several failures, started getting into white supremacy and then getting into misogyny, because a lot of beta males, whenever things don't work out in their lives, they never want to take that self-assessment. No, what they want to do is find somebody to blame. And with a lot of these white supremacist groups online, these groups give them somebody to be able to make an excuse for their failures in life. And this guy, that's probably one of the things that he did. The other thing was he went out here trying to write out these stories to try to find an outlet to escape. But sadly, because he did not have coping skills, he didn't think of a positive way to channel his writing. He wanted to be this alpha male, and when he could not be the alpha male in real life, he acted in a beta fashion by going out here and becoming his fictional character and acting out his fantasies in real life. And then as he was acting out his fantasies, he then went out in a blaze of glory, trying to make out an infamous incident so he could go out here and be the hero in his own eyes. Because in the eyes of the beta male, even though they're going to die, they've gotten the fame and attention that they want. And that's what this guy wanted to do, was get that fame and attention, because he felt like he could not get any success in his life. And this is another problem with many of these beta males, they don't know how to go out here and do things in a constructive way because they never had a man to teach them anything on how to do things. So that's why a lot of these men get frustrated and angry, and then they fall apart. And this guy, again, he went and he was a racist and a white supremacist, and he again was dealing with feelings of inadequacy, and that was one of the reasons I believe he went out here and murdered all of those people, because he wanted to go out here and do things, but he just didn't know how to make things work. So he wanted to be able to have justification to go out here and do harm. So he was definitely a sick and depraved individual. But a lot of these beta males who make up the pattern and profile that I talk about in the Man Crisis, a lot of these guys become really sick and depraved. And it's all because a lot of these guys stay in isolation for extended periods of time. And all they do is listen in these echo chambers to a lot of these white supremacist groups, or they start listening to a lot of this rhetoric. And that exacerbates their sickness, and it makes them even act even more on their actions. So that they sit there and they read these message boards, they sit there, they watch these videos, and it reinforces many of their ideas. And that's what makes these guys not only ticking time bombs, but it makes them loaded weapons, because once these guys get charged up on this type of information, and it's agreeing with many of their ideas and reinforcing many of the things that they want to think about, it just supercharges these guys and gives them that extra motivation to participate in the violence that they participate in. And that's what makes it really dangerous to be out here, because this man crisis, as I've told everyone, is going to get worse and not better, because one, America refuses to acknowledge the man crisis going on in this country, and two, America just doesn't want to confront the way we are raising boys is not giving us functional and healthy men. And this case with Lyndon James McLeod shows us how this way we're raising boys is creating some extremely dangerous men, because this male grew up to become a white supremacist, and he grew up to become a misogynist. And that is far from the ideal that feminists had when they created the social engineering to create this beta male, this kinder, gentler, softer male. No, that's not what we got in this case. No, what we got in Colorado was a textbook example of what happens when you have a beta male who does not get what he wants out of life, and when he doesn't want to get what he wants out of life, he goes out here and looks to destroy everyone and everything around him, making a twisted version of making his fantasies and his dreams come true. Now, if you want to learn more about the extremely dangerous and dysfunctional behavior of beta males, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. And this book has transformed the lives of hundreds of men across the globe, and it has helped many men break out of the cycle of being in crisis, and it has helped many men be able to move their lives forward and be able to navigate a course where they could start moving their lives in a positive direction. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available. Paperback and Kindle Unlimited. ISIS, the main event. It's carnage inside of a steel cage when the goddess next door steps in the squared circle with the beast from the boss in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the main event, paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.